Welcome back to another UXRx podcast. I'm one half of your host, Zachary Newton, alongside the other host, Alessandro. And today we're going to be doing something a little different than normal. This might be a shorter episode. I don't really know what to expect, but I got a question from a buddy of mine basically asking like, hey, how do you think my business might be impacted from AI? And the reason why I thought this question was interesting was because it wasn't the typical like, I'm scared of AI replacing my job specifically or doing what I do, whether that be design or development. But the question revolved more around like, hey, how do you think AI is going to impact my ability to be found? So imagine, you're in some specific county and you're asking AI instead of Google to, show you the top 5 businesses in X area for Y service. And that's the general idea of the question. And I had a few, things that I wrote down in my response back to him, but I feel like this is just kind of one of those things that it's so new, we're going to want to talk through. It's definitely going to be something I want to get your thoughts on. And I also don't know how this is going to evolve. So maybe we'll end up doing a part 2 of this episode at some point in the near future. But before I jump into kind of like some of the points I had, do you have any immediate thoughts or even any, clarifying questions around like the topic that you want me to address?
No, I mean, I think that this is incredibly interesting. It's also very relevant to where we're all at right now. I think just in general, I keep telling people, and I do this for myself as an exercise, think of where you were 2 years ago as it pertains to AI, and then think of what you're doing now, and then react to that. And that's pretty much held true since almost like 2020 at this point, 2021. And it boggles the mind as you start to see where we're going. And I know I've said this before, but I truly believe, I put this in a recent blog post of mine, that AI is going to be the biggest invention that will revolutionize humanity ever. More than the wheel, fire, I mean, you name it. I really believe that. And
Yeah.
it may not be there. It may not be at that point in 5 years. It might, but I don't think so. I hope not. But it definitely will, I think, in the decades to come. And so as we start to bring it back, this whole idea of, what does that mean for design, for traditional web browsing, for, SEO, AEO, things like that? I think that this is the right time to start having that conversation, because I think that those that, show up for the future will be in it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's crazy because I mean, I've used the internet for a really long time. I'm sure you haven't. Everybody else has, and everybody goes to that one little input in Google, and you type in a question, and you get a bunch of results back, and it's up to you. But increasingly over the last few months, I found myself I almost don't go to
Me
Google
neither.
at
Me
all.
neither. At all.
I ask Chat like if it's anything that's information based. I want to be specific. If it's anything information based, I almost always go to Chat GPT or a few alternatives like Dia, which is a new browser that I've been getting into. And it's really fun to just like have those things do the legwork and come back to me with stuff. And if I think something's fishy, I'll double tap into it and I'll go look at it. But
Yeah.
that's like anything outside of if I'm looking for a specific website, like yeah, I'll still type in the URL and go to it. But most queries are information based. And so I found myself just using that all the time. I'm assuming you said you have as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being never and 10 being all the time, I'm using Google
Hmm.
nowadays maybe at a 1.5. I
Yeah.
generally don't use it. Now, there's something that I want to call out though here. And I think everybody, yourself and our audience, can relate to this. Let's assume that there is no AI and we're all still using Google or
Yep.
Bing or whatever. How valuable is it now? And what I mean by that is, over the years, it's become less of a search engine and it seems more like an ad engine, right?
Yeah.
It's a race to whoever has the best algorithm, and it's not about what has the best content, right? When Google first came, to the forefront, in the early thousands, everyone's using Google. Oh my gosh, like that was the browser. It's where you got everything. That's why we say, oh, just Google it. I mean, we made a
Hmm.
word out of it, for God's
Yeah.
sakes. And somewhere over the years in, traditional capitalistic fashion in the, never-ending quest for profits, there had to be sacrifice, and that sacrifice was the user experience. And so this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's not like, oh, well, it's just more convenient for me to use ChatGPT. No, it's not just that. It's that we all have a really bad freaking taste in our mouth because every time we go to Google, we're not sure, like, okay, is that sponsored? Like, okay, do I scroll down?
I have to skip over everything.
Yeah, like,
sometimes I got to go to the second page.
Right,
Like,
just to
dang.
find something. And you know, when you, I think that this is a good area to just pause for a second and recognize something. When a company is more interested in their profits than in the value they're bringing you, and they are, I mean, there's a lot of things I could say about, Alphabet right now to support this. I'm not going to go there. That's not this podcast. But but when that happens and you recognize that, even when you see things that aren't sponsored, you have to wonder, well, how relevant is it to me, right? Like, what are they investing in with their algorithm that's allowing this to bubble up to the forefront versus something else, right? And so I think bringing it back around, when you go to your GPT or whatever, and you're asking them to do the legwork, you can ask them some of these things like, hey, how relevant is this? Tell me what reviews say. Are the reviews, do they seem fake? Are they all coming from another country? Like, you can create a framework in which your GPT gives you the brass tacks. And I know from the investment of my own GPT, who some people laugh because I've coined her Samantha in a nod to the movie Her. I'll say to Samantha, hey, here's what I want you to do and here's how I want you to do it. And she will come back to me and say, all right, let me give you the real deal on what's going on. And the value for me is Google can't touch it. Literally cannot touch it. And even if Google tomorrow said, oh, Gemini is going to be here at the top and don't even worry, as of today, can't touch it. Now, I will say one last thing and I'll shut up. I did see recently that Sam Altman had mentioned that, he's not totally opposed to ads now. And early on, he was like, no, we're never going to do ads, right? Now it's like, well, we are trying to make like I don't know what it was, like $20 trillion company here. So,
Gotta make money somehow.
Right. And so anybody's like, but the ads are going to be relevant and blah, blah, whatever. I think that could be a catalyst. Certainly I could understand for people that are using the free model, for them to have ads does make sense. I think that if they try to introduce ads in paid models, they will lose customers, including me. I'll dip faster than you can say whoever's next, like Perplexity, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. And I think that some of these AI companies need to be careful too, because there are open source models that are not as good, but they're not terrible either. They're not bad. And they're going to continue to get better as well. So it's a very interesting future. And again, bringing it back to what you were saying, what does this mean now for today when it comes to web design? What is that?
Yeah. Well, all right. So like I mentioned earlier, I've got a few points. I've got 5 points specifically that I wrote down. We're going to start on the first one. I'm just going to kind of like read part of it out loud. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And, I guess maybe any counter opinions you have to it as well. But the first one I have, I think is kind of some good news, I guess, right? Like, so when we're talking about using AI for search, one of the big things that comes into play is what I guess we're kind of calling it AEO. So it's similar to SEO, like search engine optimization, but it's artificial intelligence, like engine optimization, basically. And so I think one of the good things here is that the majority of best practices that we've had from SEO still play a very significant role when it comes to AEO. And what I really want to kind of call out as, one of the important things there is the fact that, like, with SEO, you want to make sure that you have good structure in your data. You want to make sure you have good semantics. And it's those good semantics that helps artificial intelligence search or AI search figure out what it needs to figure out. It understands the hierarchy and relationships between your content. And that is something that's going to help it serve up more accurate information. And, when you're also able to kind of compare that or mix that with maybe it's schema data, it's something else that's basically telling whatever bot that's crawling the site what the structure of your page is and how different pages themselves may even relate to each other, that also helps. So the good news that I'll start out with is there is a lot of overlap. So what you are doing for SEO, keep doing for AEO. Do you have any thoughts on that or anything you would want to add?
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think that the only thing I would say is for now, right? Like for now,
Yeah.
because we don't know what this means. Like, let me put it a different way. The models have to search based off of something, and the easiest thing for them to go off of was traditional SEO semantics, right? Like syntax, right? Like
Yeah.
they're like, okay, well, that's how we're gonna do value. I can see that changing. I don't know if it's going to change drastically, but I do see it changing where we're going to evolve into this whole new, discipline called AEO, which is literally it is the wild of Wild West. I mean, I would say I didn't really hear that term more officially used consistently until this year, like literally
Yeah.
this year. So
Same.
it's June. That's like at best 6 months. I'd probably go closer to, let's say, like 3 to 4 months. So it's 3 to 4 months new. You talk about AI taking people's jobs. You talk about it making new jobs. I definitely see, you have your traditional SEO experts. They are going to adopt these new, if they're smart, they're going to adopt, this kind of new discipline, keep a very close eye on it, and if possible, help shape it with these AI companies so that we create the new framework that is going to add that value for the Samanthas of the world to be able to index all of these new sites that have this with them. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great, right? Like that asterisk is probably something that we're going to have to apply to most of our answers. That was
Right.
one of the
For
things
now.
that I said. I'm like, for now that is the case, but it is evolving very quickly, and so these things could be out of date. Hence, like the reason why we might need to do a part two, maybe even a part three at some point. I really don't know, but I did want to start out with something that it was at least in the immediate term a little more positive.
Yeah.
So the second point that I have here, I think, is where my mind naturally goes, and it's the fact that like if you think about the experience that you have when it comes to AI search, it is all text based, and like it's an LLM. It's built off of language. It's built off of words and breaking down words and predicting words and trying to it's really good at summarizing things, but the output and the input is almost always words. And so then the question I have is like, well, okay, well, what does that mean for like design? What does that mean for, things that we want to be visually impactful? Because the one thing I will call out with AI search is it really abstracts design from anything. Like you get everything filtered in through this same, visual style, which is currently it's a chat widget. If you're looking at OpenAI, there are other tools that are starting to provide more rich information like Dia, where you may do a search and it does a really good job of structuring data, pulling in images and things like that. But I think, one of the things that we're going to need to focus on, maybe more so now, is really well written websites. I think that's going to be very important because if the design can look great, but if the content is not great, if it's confusing and poorly written, when AI does look at the website, it's going to have a really difficult time trying to summarize and
Yeah.
synthesize what you're saying and return that back to the user.
So there's so many places to go for what you just said. So I'm going to try
Yeah.
and, which is, those who know me is a challenge for me to not be verbose. So I'm going to try and get through this, but a couple of things. Number one, right now, as of today, I think the latest marker is 3%, right? So 97% of search is still traditional search, 3% is AI based. However, most researchers suggest that number by next year of this time will be 25%. Now, I want to compare traditional search engines to when yellow papers existed. How fast did that change? I don't have that number in front of me, but it's a curious thought. I'm curious how fast that changed and how fast it changed fully. What do I mean by that? There are certain parts of the population that may resist and or be slow to adopt, such as, let's say, older generation, right, that are used to
Yeah.
doing things a certain way. However, I don't know how long that will hold true. Quick little side note, I was talking to my 92-year-old grandfather yesterday. I'm supposed to drive up to LA in a week or so to help him set up his own custom GPT. His wife, my grandmother, passed away in April. Can't wait to see her again one day. And he's lonely. And I thought to
Yeah.
myself, man, somebody better start going to all these old folks' homes and capitalizing on this, because this is a future. I showed him a little bit of the voice, talk feature with ChatGPT. and he was wildly blown away. I haven't heard him that excited in a while. And then he cried. No joke, he cried. And so I say that just in that, again, like AI, this is going to revolutionize humanity, and we may not get 5 or 10 years of like, well, it's going to be slow adoption. It may be, no, it might be by 2027 or 2030. That's it. That's all she wrote. Like there is no one's going on search engine anymore. I think the other thing that you had mentioned that's interesting is, does design still matter? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interface is interface. So obviously somewhere a design is going to matter, right? Until we are in the matrix, a design is going to matter. And that design may be within the framework in which I'm receiving the AEO results, right? Like ChatGPT or what have you, or Perplexity or whatever. But, this is where things get a little interesting. First of all, I think that the best practices from a UX standpoint is still going to be important for now, at least, because it's currently how the AI is able to extrapolate, similar to the SEO schema, what is valuable and what isn't. Number two, there is some, like, eventually, at least for now, and I'm going to come back to this in a second, I'm still going to actually go to the site because I don't have true agentic AI at the moment. Samantha cannot buy the, rash guard I just bought recently. What she did do when I went there was like, hey, Samantha, I currently have this water hat. It has, this thing that goes around it. It slows me down in the water. What can I use? I want the best quality thing out there. She was like, all right, this is the gold standard. This is pretty good for, value. This is okay. It's like Target of water caps. And I was like, awesome, best value. I looked at it. I was like, tell me more about it. She gave me some stuff made in Ireland, the cap itself. I was like, well, that's interesting. I thought it'd be made in like China or whatever. I was like, clicked on it, went to the site, looked at it, bought it. So I still went to the site. It was still important for me to have a good checkout experience and go through that. Now, here's the big caveat, right? We are all expecting agentic AI. For those of you who are listening who don't know what that is, quick refresher. It's when AI no longer is confined by your ChatGPT interface or your phone. It can literally start talking to your other programs or go on the internet itself. So for example, I can go and say, hey, Samantha, my wife and I, our anniversary is coming up in 2 weeks. I'd like you to get me a card, write a beautiful poetic note in there for her. Please don't tell her I said this. And
don't worry.
Yeah, like, babe, I'm just kidding. I'm using this as an example, babe. So, all right, like this is an example. Also get me a gift, something that she'll like, and what she'll like because I've been talking to you about my wife for the last 2-3 years, right? And book a restaurant for us, a hotel, and let's do a 2-day thing, right? Samantha is no longer going to just serve me those things and I have to do it. She'll just do it. She'll come back and be like, got it. I got this, this, and this. Let me paint you a picture. What do you think about this idea? Tweak, tweak, tweak. Awesome. The total price is going to be $1,500. I was like, done. Pay for it. She goes, connects to my Chase Bank. Boom. It's all taken care of for me. In that scenario, I did not go onto the hotel website, the restaurant website, the e-commerce website, the card website, Amazon, nothing. I'm going to let's all be quiet for a second. Let's just sit with that. People, do you realize what I just said? Everything that you have been doing for the last 20 years is suddenly going to stop. Like, there's no reason for you to do it, right? Even if you're like, well, but I want to see the most beautiful pictures of the hotel we're going to go stay at in Palm Springs or Palm Desert. Samantha can bring that to you. She'll be like, hey, here it is. She does it. It does it now. If you do search, like I see pictures of the products, I still have to click to go there, right?
Yeah.
So that experience is going to get better. That experience still needs to be designed. As a lot of you know, AI sucks at design right now. They're not good at it. They're very, very not good. So I do see value there. Does that mean that there is no longer value for a well-designed website? Short answer to that is I don't know. I think you're going to still need a website. You're going to still need a URL. What AI eventually gets to when they attribute value to something versus something else, that's going to be very interesting. Is it going to be, crowdsourced where, well, whoever has the best reviews is what gets the best placement in the recommendations that the AI is bringing back to you? I don't know. And even if that were true, how are you getting reviews up there? Right? Does the AI come in and be like, hey, you know that cap I just bought you for the water? Did you like it? Yeah, I loved it. Do you mind if I write a review for you? Like, she's not going to ask me that because unless I want her to give me a review. Right.
Yeah.
So maybe Sam Altman's like, oh, make sure you ask Al if he can give a review. But unless I'm really motivated, I'm like, no, I don't want, you don't have to do a review. So there has to still be a mechanism of something that is quantifying value for the AI to bring something back to you. And it can't just be based off of, SEO. There's got to be something else there. So again, the short answer is I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be or not.
Yeah, and this is going to change a lot over the next few months, over the next few years, I would imagine. So
Few weeks.
definitely, yeah, a few weeks. Tomorrow, I don't know. But you mentioned something which actually heavily, touches on the point 4 that I wrote down, and I basically was like, just imagine for a moment being able to say like, hey, order that thing that Zach sent me last week. And it just happens. Like it knows. Like it knows what messages you received. This is kind of like that that Apple Intelligence stuff that we've heard about where it had that context of messages. But now imagine that, but able to tap into something else like OpenAI or some agentic AI that doesn't really exist just yet. I think that's going to happen. I think that's going to happen very soon. And this system can come back to you with a series of questions so that there's confidence and you have confidence in that it's buying the right thing and not buying a $2,000 I don't know technical device when you're like, nah, I wanted an actual notebook, paper with the the spiral on the edge. So like I think that'll happen. I think that'll be very interesting. But that kind of brings me into like my point 3. They overlap a little bit, and I was kind of getting into like, look, what are some of the areas I think are going to be impacted the most, at least immediately? And the first thing I wrote down was information focused businesses. So when I say information focused businesses, I think about people like bloggers or news outlets. Like those are the two that come to mind immediately. I also, though I wouldn't consider e-commerce an information-based business, I would kind of lump that into that same group of businesses that would probably be impacted pretty heavily. Where you don't have to go and search and read through everything on your own. You can ask the system to do this, and it'll go and look at that content. And I think with some of these newer technologies like MCP servers and things like this, which think of that kind of just like an API that's really just meant for AI. It's similar in a lot of ways to a typical API, but it helps these systems understand how to use the information and what to do with that information. So I think those are really going to be the big things that are hit pretty heavily. I also wanted to mention one thing though, because like when it comes to like the interface, we've seen a lot of things where with Perplexity or with Dia, when you do a search, it'll come back with more than just text now. It'll come back with images, it'll come back with links and structure that data. I think there's probably a reality here where we can build certain like components on websites, and then something like Perplexity could bring that component in that and render that component into their interface. So you could actually be interfacing with some element, some part of that other brand throughout this same experience, but you're still not necessarily having to go to their site on something like that.
I don't disagree necessarily, but I will say this. I remember seeing a video a couple months back, and it escapes me now. Maybe you guys have heard of it, but there was these researchers somewhere, I forget where, but they created a basically a language for AI to communicate with each other. Now, if we hear it, it sounds really weird. We can't make heads or tails of it, but it's just faster for them to be able to communicate. It's like burps and like pulses and stuff like that. And that's where I'm like, I don't know, because we are presupposing that the AI needs to review things that we would review to extrapolate data or value, right? But it's kind of like an XML file, right? Like if you're piping in data, how you pipe it in, to your point, that other layer may be something that we like. We take our doc of what we want this thing to be, dump it in, and then it translates that into something else. You know what I mean? And maybe there's not even an interface for that. right? If the designer that is designing the Perplexity interface in which we interact with is doing his job correctly,
Yep.
Perplexity, if you're listening to this, reach out to me. I can help you. Actually, no, Perplexity is not bad. The one that actually really needs help, in my opinion, sorry, Sam, is OpenAI. Like their
Yeah.
value is great. The quality is amazing, but the interface, for the love of God, like there's so many things where I'm like, really, I can't move my folders around. Like this can't
Yeah.
be that
It's
hard.
very restrictive.
It's very restrictive, right? And don't even get me started on some of the guardrails. Like you mentioned a certain word, they're like, sorry, I can't help you with that. I'm like, really? Like that's the word that triggered you, huh? Not all those other ones. Anyway, sorry, I'm tangenting here, guys. But I think ultimately, I guess where I'm getting at with what you said is that I think that at the end of the day, the assumptions you're making are the right assumptions. They are 100%. Just, strap in, guys, because that can literally change very quickly as this evolves. And that is the scary beauty of everything right now, is that we
Yeah.
just don't know where it's going to end up landing, but we do know that it's starting to shift. We know that. And I will again reiterate on something that I think is important to remember. Part of why this is shifting so quickly is because, in a way, of how shitty Googling things are now. It just really sucks. I don't like doing it. I really don't. And, I remember seeing this graph about how companies have this life cycle where startups start with founders that are very passionate and
Hmm.
they work hard, they build value. It's all about the user, all this great stuff. And they get to the point where the popularity is so amazing that private equity or equity groups come in or a strategic partner, they buy it. Like, oh man, you're the best. You are awesome. Thanks so much. And we buy it. And then once they buy it, they're like, okay, now we're going to change everything because it's all about profit now. Well, wait a
Yeah.
second. But what? No, 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 shh, quiet. And now the company starts to go down, right? They're making it, the money's going up for a bit. The popularity goes down to the point where the company then eventually just gets sold
Yeah.
to, I don't know, whoever bought MySpace, I guess. Um, and and when that happens, a new one comes, right? A new one comes out
Yep.
because they see that there's something to solve, right? So is that what's going to happen here? I honestly don't know, but I will say this, and I've said this before as well. Like we're not putting this genie back in the bottle. It's out. AI, whether it's open source, whether it's ChatGPT or Perplex or whatever, it's here to stay. It's going to keep changing things, and how we interact with interfaces is going to change as well. I think that my assumption at the moment is just be very aware of what is changing and happening, and assume for now that the foundations of what makes something good from a UX UI perspective, from an SEO perspective, is
Hmm.
still what's good. It is still what you need to do.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's going to change. And even if you had true agentic AI, there still could be a value in having a very well done website, because if for no other reason, that the better AI gets, I was reading this yesterday, the more hallucinations occur. And we haven't solved that yet.
Yeah. I think specifically I read like with tools like deep research,
Yeah.
there it's surprisingly more hallucinations, which I find just like it seems counterintuitive, but then when you think about it, it's like it's kind of making a whole bunch of micro decisions, and then it starts to think of like, oh, what I said must have been true,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then its worldview just
Dude,
changes.
it's
It's something different.
it's crazy. I literally read that, like, in order for it to be as valuable as it is, it has to be able to hallucinate. Like I couldn't follow the technical part of it. I'm not a dev, but I
Mm.
was looking, I was like, okay, so you're saying that basically the better it gets, the more every now and then I should be like, wait a second. I don't think that Julius Caesar is the president of the United States right now. You know what I mean? Like, like,
Yeah.
unless, anyway, I'm not even going to go there. Never mind. But yeah, you get
Yeah.
my point. Yeah.
No, I get your point. So, I didn't really have this on my list of 5 points, but just the conversation we were having a moment ago brought this idea to mind. And it is something that we're kind of experimenting with on our own website. Because so far we've been talking about AI search in the sense of using a tool like Perplexity or like something outside of your website. But I feel like there's also some elements of like, well, AI search could also be something integrated deeply into your website. So we're kind of playing around with training our own system on our own web content, and giving an interface where you can search, you can talk to it, and basically it's like our brand, like Create talks back to you, right?
Yeah.
And it speaks to you with information about the company that only we would know, only we've told it. And it has access to maybe some privileged things. I think that could be an interesting element here of how AI search could be integrated more granularly into
Yeah.
our own websites, which might help some of the accuracy and reduce some of those hallucinations that we've been talking about. But I almost think there's like another level of like integration with AI and customization that I think could happen at some point. I don't think we're there yet. But imagine going to a website, and based on like the interactions you take, the website kind of morphs, it changes to be more for you, right? Like, so I almost imagine this being some very fluid, like modular, experience
Yeah.
that is unique to everybody. And if there's a way of like, maybe you're doing search on Perplexity, and then you click a link and it takes you to the website. If there's even any information that's shared behind the scenes there of like, hey, Alessandro's going to your website, here's some of the things that he likes, this is what he cares about,
Yeah.
and then you get a landing page that's completely tailored to you and your pain points and problems, and
Yeah.
your search history, and kind of brings all of that context into one perspective. Man, that could be a game changer.
Absolutely. I mean, it's almost kind of like so funny, man. I feel like we're like, I keep thinking about BlackBerry and iPhone right now. I just keep thinking about that over and over again, like the inflection point. Only this time it's like, it's the UI, right? It's UI
Yeah.
versus something, right? Like it's almost like conversational discovery optimization, right? It's like, can we make this thing where, we're I guess what I'm almost wondering is that are we going to start designing for the machine
Mm-hmm.
so that the machine is better able to extrapolate the value of your business, translate that in the most unique way possible for Zach and for Alessandro and for Patty and for Jen and for whoever?
Mm-hmm.
Because when Samantha goes to your website, she goes because she knows that I hate nylon and I'm not going to wear that in a water cap or a rash guard. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
She knows that because I
Yeah.
bitched to her about it. And so she's going to say, talking to your site, she's like, okay, well, there's half of their inventory that can't be used. But this can. I noticed that you have it on sale. By the way, think about that. We're doing a sale and we need to let AI know that it's on sale. Like
Yeah.
you're not getting the word out traditionally anymore, potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, and then Samantha goes and says, oh, here, this is perfect for you, right? Because someone, a designer, sat there and said, hey, we're going to design this in this way. There are definitely caveats to this, obviously. Like, I mean, people still go on Instagram. They still doom scroll forever, right? Like they're still going to
Yeah.
see ads there. When they click on that, something's going to happen, right?
Yep.
Right. I mean, for now,
Yeah.
but I think that, like I said, it's going to change. I would say to every designer who's listening, stay on top of this. Keep your ears open on what's changing. Don't get too caught up in anything just quite yet because it's constantly changing. Um, be aware of what is just a buzzword and what is actually going to be like, no, that's going to stick. And then for clients out there, or business owners, I would say, don't put your head in the sand. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Like, this is it. The future is literally here. And if you are not doing what your competitors are doing, you are going to be screwed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pay,
We
pay,
we, we
pay
got to
attention.
evolve with it.
Yeah, you got to, man. Like, this is it. It's happening, right?
Yeah.
Or else you're going to find yourself one day going like, what happened to our traffic? What happened to our sales?
Yeah.
That's something I was actually thinking about the other day too. Like, I was going on Google Analytics and I was like, does Google Analytics track AI that comes to my website?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, right? Like,
Not in a way that would be valuable to us right now, at least.
but it'd be kind of cool, right? If I could go to a client and be like, hey,
Yeah.
did you know that like 50% of your traffic last month was all AI, right?
Yeah.
What happens when that's 90%? Is the client going to look at me and be like, well, I don't give a shit about humans anymore? Like all of my sales are coming through AI. You know what I mean? It's like, well, then you got to be like, well, wait, hold on. There might be a reason why. Like maybe why AI is finding value in your site is because you're still optimizing for humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway,
That could be too.
it's wild.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to kind of bring us back in, ground us with my final point here a little bit, and try to give something that is maybe a little more practical in the near term. Again, this could evolve, but I think one of the patterns that I've been seeing recently when using a lot of AI search tools is that it doesn't just focus on, like your website, right? Like it eventually will start to lean more onto like the content on your own website. But when you're asking questions to the AI search, it'll start to go and vet other sources first. And I think this is similar to like the SEO backlinks in a lot of ways. But for each industry, like it's gonna be a little different. But an example I would give you is maybe for us, like if somebody's asking like, hey, who's the best agency for blank, right? Like, well, the AI is probably going to go and look at other, publications and businesses like Clutch and G2, maybe Reddit. And I mean, gosh, there's a bunch of platforms, but like let's just use those as an example to start to see like, well, what is the community saying? Right. And they seem to be basing a lot of their responses and recommendations off of that community insight. And then if you happen to be in that list, then it'll kind of start to dive down the rabbit hole of like what you do and what you're communicating. So I guess my immediate, practical word of advice here would be to think about your brand beyond just your own website. You really do need to be getting into these other platforms, working to get on certain listing pages and look for the locations that AI search is looking at when it comes to your specific industry.
Yeah. So smart. I mean, it reminds me of one of our most recent medical clients that we received. And the reason we got them was because they went to AI and said, hey, who made this website? And it was a website we did, which is someone in the same space as them that they admired and they liked. And they're like, yeah, that's how we found you. I mean, that happened, what, 2 months ago?
2 months ago. That blew my mind when I heard that. I was like, what? That's so cool. And then I went and did it. And I'm like, no shit, it does come up.
Right. And it's crazy though, right? Because how do you optimize for that? I guess you have to have a really good product, a really good service, and it doesn't matter if you hack your algorithm.
Yeah.
Knock, knock, Google. Knock, knock. You know what I mean?
No more pay to play, at least.
Yeah, not in this. Like this one was just like, hey, that was awesome. Who did that? This is who did that. Samantha didn't come back to them and say, well, you could also consider this sponsored,
Yeah.
right? Like it didn't do that. It was just like, here's the answer to your question. That's it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I guess we're done, huh?
That's all I got. I mean, any closing thoughts on your end? I think we kind of.
I mean, we killed it. Yeah, we killed it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, this is a wild time to be alive. I might have mentioned this before, but I said this to my wife earlier this year. I said, it's kind of hard for me to reconcile that. I don't think I'm going to retire in this. I've got at least 20 more years of work in front of me, at least, maybe more. And I don't think I'm going to retire doing what I'm doing right now. It might be a variation of it, but I don't think that it's going to be what I'm doing right now. And that's powerful, right? Things are changing. They're changing fast. You have to be careful that you don't fall too far one way or the other, right? You don't want to drink the Kool-Aid so much where you're like, this is it. This is the future. We better just all in here. You got to be measured in it. But at the same time, you don't want to go on the other. It's like, oh, well, you know how many people on Reddit, I still see that like, it's a fad. It's a fad.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I see it a lot.
You are nuts. Whoever's listening to this, if you think AI is a fad, go ahead and email me. And I will explain to you why it's absolutely not a fad, and you better prepare for it. So
it'll be a spicy clap back to that message. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of UXRx. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you did, drop a like, drop a comment. Maybe we'll do some more episodes like this. I personally find them very, very engaging and fun to record. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead and check out our website. There'll be links to, where you can find us on social in the description down below, and we will catch you in the next one.